Anybody ever lost a set of car keys? Anybody never lost a set of car keys or a mobile phone or, heaven forbid, your luggage on the way to a conference in Las Vegas, right?
It's all very careful people around here.
Exactly. Well, if you've ever lost something valuable to you, imagine how difficult it must be keeping track of some highly valuable assets as part of a global business across multiple locations. So imagine hundreds, if not thousands, sometimes millions of assets across multiple locations on multiple continents, and getting visibility to all that and being the one responsible for tracking and managing all of that. That's the problem that we help businesses solve, and that's what we're here to talk with you about here today. So welcome, everybody. We appreciate you joining us in the middle of the PAC Expo conference. My name is John Hudson. I lead U.S. sales in North America for Sensolus. And this is my colleague, Steven. Steven Van Hoof is our VP for engineering. And we wanted to talk with you about the state of asset tracking here today, share some stories from the field. And we'll start by kind of giving you the idea of where the market is. So it's gone well beyond barcodes and spreadsheets. Modern asset tracking today is about combining complex communications technology with very powerful software platforms, combining those things to deliver real business insights and create tangible financial and business outcomes for businesses of all sizes. And that's a lot, but we make it very simple to do and very powerful and easy to leverage. We have lots of use cases. We're going to share some with you here today, but lots of examples that will validate our technology and our approach. Today we have over 1 million assets in the field with over 500 companies using our technology, and we've been around for about 15 years. We're based in Belgium, and like I said, we've been in the U.S. for about 3 or 4 years. So what we really want to do is kind of introduce you to the blueprint for success when you talk about not just asset tracking, but using Sensolus to do it. We have a very simple 3-step approach. The first thing we do is we install trackers, and I think we have a tracker somewhere. We'll show you what they look like. We install them on your assets, simple as that. And we'll talk about what assets we typically track a little further along in the presentation. And then we help you to manage those assets using those tracking and technologies and those trackers. We combine all that information into a single location, a single pane of glass, into a very powerful platform that any user can very intuitively use. And then we leverage that platform and the aggregated data to provide you analytical insights that you can use to make smarter decisions and create the business outcomes that are going to make a financial impact on your organization. So it says very easy. We do all the heavy lifting and make it very simple for you and intuitive for you to be able to use every single day. And take it from me, I am the salesperson who can demonstrate this technology, who can use this technology, maybe not deploy this technology, but certainly can speak to it from a user standpoint. It's extremely intuitive and easy to use.
So when we approach such a project in asset tracking, we always aim to take a structured approach to it. And because John talked about analytics insights, but all these things are not achieved from day one. And in order to go through that trajectory, we take a stepwise approach. And step number 1 is connecting assets. And maybe you can tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the first thing you want to do to create visibility is to attach a tracker to an asset. You have to be able to, the concept is to digitize your asset. And you got to connect the asset to the internet to be able to see it in our software platform. So quite simply, you connect all your assets to the internet by putting a tracker on them. And that's where if you know anything about asset tracking, you've heard the term dots on a map. It's a true term, but that's just the beginning. That's just where it starts, connecting your assets to the internet.
Okay, so dots on the map sounds simple, but you already know where everything is, right? And in many cases, that's already a big step forward from the status quo. Now, next level is we're looking to improve inventory. So can you give a concrete example about that, sir?
Yeah, so they say that this is a sports analogy or a sports reference. The best stability is availability. So if you're an injured athlete, you can't play on the field, then you're really not serving much of you're not supporting the team, or you're not serving much of a purpose from a team perspective. Availability in asset tracking means exactly that. You have to have the asset that you need in the place that you need it at the time that you need it in order to do something good with it. In our world, and certainly in the reusable container world, that means balancing inventory across multiple locations and making sure that inventory levels are where they need to be. A really good example is we work with DHL in Germany, and they use roll cages. And just so happens that they found themselves in a position where they did not have enough roll cages to ship product at a certain point in time. And if you're in the business that DHL is in and you can't move things, it's probably not a very good thing, not a way to succeed. They would actually hop on the phone, make phone calls to one another, try and find surplus for those roll cages, and you can immediately see the inefficiency with that. Now they're using Sensolus. They've automated that entire process. We've given them the visibility where they can see and balance all the inventory levels across multiple locations and problem solve there.
All right, so at that moment, we know exactly for every location how many assets there are and how that inventory level evolves over time, right? The next level would be the optimization phase, where we aim to reduce the number of roll cages in this case, right? Tell me more about that one.
So our typical buyer is a supply chain manager, and the supply chain manager is taking direction from the executive leadership team to just continue the operation as a cost of doing business, reinvest every single year in a certain amount of new reusable containers or pallets or totes or whatever the case may be. Let's just go ahead and assume 2 to 3 to 5% loss, and we'll just buy new pallets every single year. That's not exactly the way to grow your business. It's just the way it's been done for so long. What we do is give you visibility ahead of time to all of those assets so that you can prove using data-driven feedback that you don't have to reinvest in a standard amount of assets every single year to resupply your inventory of reusable pallets. You might not have to do that at all because you can control where all your assets are, find them at any point in time, and better manage the overall inventory.
I would say typically these assets are not truly lost, right? They're in the back of the warehouse, your customer is holding on to them. They're somewhere in your chain, right? You just don't know exactly where they are. And by making it visible, what we see throughout is that everybody gets incentivized to do something about it. The people in the repair shop, they know they need to rotate because somebody's tracking how long assets stay there. Customers know they will be billed if they hold on too long for an asset. Right, okay. Following the model, going up, I see compliance. Are we talking lawyers, or what do you mean exactly with that, sir?
Well, compliance can be in a lot of things, but since we're beginning here with the end in mind, which is the outcome, compliance typically means for companies how you're dealing with your customer. Service level agreements, customer contracts, things that you're on the hook for to deliver to your customer. So it's really about customer satisfaction, making sure that you have the right thing in the right place at the right time to be able to deliver. I actually have a customer that ships hydrogen peroxide, and they ship it globally. And they have a limited fleet of 50 aluminum drums that they use to ship this stuff. And so they have to make sure that the stuff can be out and in compliance with certain conditions, so it can only be traveling for a certain period of time. And all of this has to be met with it has to meet a certain standard service level agreement with its customers. But then taking it to the legal part, if you actually lose that asset in transit, you can imagine in some countries that's going to be a problem from a federal regulatory environmental compliance standpoint.
Basically, the tracking is used to prove compliance, basically. With it.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Last point, the ultimate stage, which we aim for, is new services. So can you make that a bit more concrete by giving an example?
Yeah, this is the top of the mountain. So this is where you actually flip the script and take operations and flipped it from being a cost center to a profit center. So you can actually take technology such as this and embed it into your reusable fleets. white label it in some instances like we do with some of our partners, and then create a value-added profit center or a revenue stream for your business by offering that to your customers. In some cases, like for example, industrial equipment cleaners, you can use that as your connected strategy, device strategy, equipment strategy, and offer it and create a new revenue stream with as a value-added service for some of your customers. That's the holy grail, I think, of asset tracking.
All right, okay. So now let's maybe look a bit at, we talked about the business, the why, but let's look a bit at the how, right?
So seeing is believing, and we're looking at a picture. You see a couple of circles here, but Steven, can you tell us exactly what we're looking at here?
So on the picture on your left side, you see a glass frame, and that's a typical asset which we would be tracking. A glass frame, it gets moved to a construction site, but then it's left there because the glass is not taken off immediately. It takes time for the construction crew to deal with it. So the frame stays at the construction site, and then you rely on somebody calling to get it back, right? And that's where things get lost. These things are not super expensive, but the hassle of ordering new frames makes it valuable to start tracking them. Right?
So once it's attached, how do you service it? How do you actually? I assume these things have batteries in them.
Sure. So I have one in front of me. So attachment is easy. It's just a couple of screws or rivets. In terms of servicing, we consistently aim for 5 to 10 years battery life without changing it. So it's our belief that the service life of the tracker should be a multiple of the service life of the asset. And so maybe once or twice in the lifetime of the asset, you're switching the tracker or changing the battery. And the reason is really simple. These assets are not waiting nicely in a row to get equipped with a tracker, right? So while it's individually not complex to do that, it is quite an effort to equip your whole fleet with tracking. And as such, we should aim for a very long service life.
So since we're talking about assets, but we haven't really identified what types of assets are typical for customers of ours anyway, maybe you can give us an idea. There seems to be a lot of pictures here. People might be wondering, what is the typical sort of asset that Sensolus tracks?
Well, the common theme in our asset tracking is what we call non-powered assets, right? Everything where classic telematics types of solutions do not work. If you want to track a car or a truck, that's easy because you have an endless battery. But all these assets which you see here, stillages, containers, IBCs, the common theme between them is they do not have any power. And that's why you need a long life battery solution. And then if we look at the goal of the company is actually we want to drive the cost of tracking down in order to increase the addressable market. Imagine a crate with potatoes. It's neither high value. So I have to admit, we're not yet at the point where asset tracking is viable for these types of things. But we'll get there. If we would have this conversation 5 years down the road, the cost of this guy would go down. And so the types of assets which we can address is growing constantly, right? All right, I want to give you a quick overview of what we do in the platform. It's going to be super fast. Number one we talked about is this asset map, right? You see at any given moment where your assets are, and so you can zoom into them, see their current situation, right? Go next. Next up is we look at the history of an individual asset, and so you can exactly see where that asset has been, the trip it has been making. And we typically roll that up by area of interest, which we call geozones. And so we can see all the key locations in your context where the asset has been. Next up is activity. How much has this asset been moving? It's a key thing because it helps you to see how much typically revenue an asset is generating, right? It went a bit quick on the movie, but we're getting there, right?
Leave it to the sales guy to fast forward through something.
Exactly. Now, next up, we're looking at these zones of interest, these geozones, right? We're zooming in here into a specific zone, drop it right Detroit, and we can see it's a zone you design yourself on the map. So you choose what is the area, and then we can see basically which assets are there at this very moment and how your stock is evolving over time. High stock means unused, low stock means we're probably short of assets, right? We can also see dwell times. How long have assets been staying around here? And we would be interested in the guys which are at the back in the warehouse, not moving, because those are not generating any revenue. We see in-out transitions, which day, how many assets come in, come out by the hour. And finally, we're also visualizing the transitions between those zones. From where to where do we have how many assets traveling, right? Super quick overview, but it gives you a bit of an idea of what we're doing, right?
So that's an awesome look at the data and how simple it is and intuitive to consume. But my question, I guess, would be like, does the data only reside in our platform? Do I, as a user, have to go to the Sensolus platform to get the data out?
No. So what we see, the short answer is basically that all the data you see belongs to our customers, and they can fully consume it with APIs as well, right? So they can extract it, feed it in their own ERP, their Salesforce, their SAP. And there's also a connection the other way around. Data from the SAP can be pushed into our platform so that it gets enriched with contextual data. And like, which shipment is this asset fulfilling at this very moment, right?
Okay. And then finally, a conversation about technology, which is really what this is about, modern technology. It wouldn't be complete without mentioning AI. So AI is a nice talking point for everybody today. But Steven, can you give us a little insight into why it's a little more than just a talking point for Sensolus?
Well, indeed. So if you want to cut through the hype a little bit, where we see and where we have integrated in our platform language models is in basically providing you a direct answer to a business question. And if you looked at the demo, which you saw, it is a very nice point and click user interface, but you as a user still need to point and click and go to the right location to find your answer. What AI brings to the table is that you can, through a chat interface, ask your business question. The language model connects directly to all the data underneath and gives you the answer straight away. Very much in the same spirit like all of us are using ChatGPT today, right? You don't get a link of pages to visit with the answer, but you get the answer. Secondly, we also provide a connector which allows any language model to connect into it so that you can mix and match it with your own data. And basically where, again, looking forward, if I would look forward, let's say a couple of years from now, I would imagine that the dominant consumer of all the data which we collect is not a user behind a web interface or a pure API consumer, but rather a language model, an agent interacting with the data, combining with other data, and presenting that to the end user, right? But we'll see that.
So this is something that we can actually, all of this that we're talking about, demonstrate for you here at PAC Expo. We're actually right over here. Here's a map how to find us. We're in this wonderful reusable package pavilion that's been set up, and we'd love to meet with you, sit down, talk about your business and your use cases, and figure out how to apply our solution to your organization to drive some real business results. So we just wanted to say on behalf of Steven, thank you very much for giving us your time and your attention, and we hope you have a great rest of your show.